Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Let's Talk About It. I'm your host, Ron Cunningham. And we have an exciting show for you today. We'd also like for you to know that without further ado, I'd like to thank the superintendent of schools, I'd like to thank the Niagara Falls Board of Education, of course you, the parents, and of course the taxpayers for making this studio possible. I'm filming from the Black Box Studio. And my guest today is none other than the Chief Executive Officer of the city, Mayor Robert Restaino. I'm glad you could make it.
Thank you, man.
All right. It took a long time to get you here, but you finally got you, because I know you're very busy and handling things, and you got a lot of things going on. Mr. Mayor, tell people a little about your background.
Well, born and raised in Niagara Falls. I've lived here my whole life. Other than social travel, I've never left. Graduate of local schools. Graduate of Niagara University. Received my law degree from the University of Buffalo, and practiced law in our community for nearly 40 years. I've been a member of the Unified Court System, been a member of the Board of Education, served on a variety of community boards throughout our city. Both myself and my family are committed to our community, and really work hard to try and make it better.
Your father's very active in politics.
Yeah, my father was extremely active from 1952 right up until his passing in 2012. He was a pretty active member in local politics, and so kind of set most of the rest of his life.
Yeah, I remember coming right back to the central show. I was saying, campaigning there. I think Dad was telling about. He said, "Signs of the election people do. You got a lot of tips from him."
Yep.
And he was a great guy. By the way, I did a step in UB Law School.
Did you?
I had two jobs. I couldn't keep up. I had to do all the reading. That's a lot of reading. A lot of work for that boy.
You know, there aren't a lot of people who I would be afraid of being with Bert. You would be one.
Well, I went to UB is my alma mater, and I got my sociology degree there. Then after I decided I wasn't going to be a lawyer, I went to the University of Albany and did my master's in education. I like education too. That's a rough job. Now, you was a judge, then you became president of the Niagara Falls Board. You said you were a member of the Niagara Falls Board. I understand that, but you was also the president. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I had been a member of the board since 2010, and then at one point the presidency of the board became available, and I sort of talked to our membership, and they had confidence in me.
I forgot about that. Thank you.
2 years. It was during that time that we did a number of, we were just finishing off one development with the athletic fields and investment, and we were going to embark on a second one. So I'm pretty proud of the fact that during my time on the board, working in conjunction with my fellow board members, we were able to accomplish a number of things that enhanced facilities for our students and our staff. The other thing too is that during that time we had the chance to transition to a new superintendent. I'm proud. There were some on the board that wanted to do a national search, and I told them, and I don't mean to embarrass them, but I told them, I said, then you better find the platinum standard, because the gold standard of superintendents is sitting right under our nose, and that was the deputy superintendent at the time. Now Superintendent Mark Lloyd.
He does a great job too. You guys work very well together. I mean, that football field, after heavy rain, could drain in 20 minutes.
Yep. It's fabulous. As a matter of fact, all of our fields are the envy of so many others in the Western New York region, and they contact us for use of them. At least that's my recollection when I was here.
You got the High Park playground. That's nice too.
Yeah, we just invested in our Salmon Stadium.
Yeah. You're doing a lot of things.
They didn't invest in shit.
One of the things I want to ask you.
It was entry.
What made you run for the mayor of the city of Niagara Falls first time out you won? It's sometimes a great job. Sometimes a real thankless job, man. Sometimes you got to do battle every other day. Tell me what made you run for that?
Well, you know what? It's both of those every day. Great and thankless. But let me just say to you that I had every intention of running in 2015. Again, myself and my family have been here our whole lives, and I just thought that the city really could do some different things and challenge some things that were existing to try and turn the corner and become better. For personal reasons, family reasons, I didn't do that in 2015. Instead, in that year, my daughter ran for a judicial position. She's now chief judge over at the city court. In 2019, though, I had decided that this was it. I needed, my wife and I were in a pretty good place. Both our kids were working and on their own. And so it was just her and I could take this opportunity to step away from my practice and do what I thought was the most appropriate public service to help our city.
Well, your wife represents the city's first lady. She does a good job. I often run for downtown at the administration building. She's always very engaged, always very nice, always very helpful. So that's important. Now, as the mayor, you won a hard-fought campaign. And I know you inherit a lot of situations now, like the blue card before. Now that wasn't done on the ordinance, was it?
No, if you remember, we walked in 2020, the first thing that hit us in the face was COVID, right? It hit everybody, it hit everybody. Then we had social unrest, George Floyd's murder. We made our way through all that, but we weren't able to do any of the shiny things like development and get those things. We started. This time around, with 1/3 less voters showing up, we were able to be successful. And you're right, we inherited the blue cardinal difficulty, which started in 2019. I quickly came to the realization that what they were talking about was nothing more than, another scheme to sort of rope the city along, much like we deal with NFR for over 25 years. So it was in the middle of last term that we made a conscious effort to decide that we were going to take a strong stand against all of it. And at the time, it come for the city of Niagara Falls to sort of, chart its own course, not just try to flip things over to one developer in some massive thought that they might create the land of Oz. This is not going to happen. You build these things brick by brick, and so we've taken the challenge to them. The properties on Main Street, the bank. It's my understanding the bank has foreclosed on them, and so they'll soon be available for development through the bank that was holding the mortgage on many of the Blue Cardinal properties, all of the Blue Cardinal properties. And so we've been in conversations with and have moved pretty far down the road in the development project with Niagara University to bring University apartments to Main Street. Now, the whole retail piece on Main Street, probably, I think we all would agree when you start hearing that big box stores are closing all across the country. Main Street died when the suburban malls opened, and the suburban malls have struggled with people being able to shop anywhere just by going to their phone. So,
It's new age.
yeah. So we're thinking that if we could bring the student apartments, and we're certainly eager to have student apartments, and we can bring them to Main Street, we can reinvent perhaps the storefront needs along Main, and really create a vibrant community.
Now, chronologically speaking, Blue Cardinal was under whose eye?
Blue Cardinal was under the previous administration, between 2017 and 2019, they were having their discussions with the previous administration, and then in 2019 entered into an agreement for various properties. They acquired the properties, Main Street, from the prior owner, and then that entered into a development discussion with the prior administration. When we came in, Blue Cardinal was a part of the downtown revitalization initiative, all of those things, but quickly it became apparent that they really weren't the real thing.
It's like a body five story.
We started to move to get the state of New York to move the money dedicated to their projects, to other projects. For certain, and the proof is in the final product. We thought for certain that they didn't get it.
It sounds to be
Yeah, I think in some respects, yeah, we've been able,
that's hard to get done.
Rick, we cleaned up the finances, we cleaned up some of these development projects, we've tried to move NFR off of the quarter century stall.
Speaking of independent, I'm looking at the fact that you know, it took a lot of courage to take them off. Because as a nigga, you want to develop down there. Now the other thing, we're talking about the cemetery. Big piece of conversation. What's your outlook on that? And I remember one time I sort of understood how you have a way to pay for it. Could you explain that?
Sure. You know, Centennial Park, by the way, that name is just a placeholder. Ultimately, we will do what other communities have done. We'll look for someone who may want to take that event center and that park and provide funding for naming rights. Those are all the things, but those are the things that happen after we've gotten ourselves established. But ultimately, our goal is to first acquire the property. In my discussions with state legislative leaders, they've indicated support for the project, but made it clear that the city had the first to obtain the property. Now, what we tried to do initially is figure out what are our ways to obtain resources to acquire the property. Now, we haven't set values yet, although NFR has said publicly the property is worth $10 million. With our improved financial standing, we made an inquiry with the federal government with regard to community block grant funding, just to see what that looked like. We have also gone to the bond market. And the bond market actually becomes a much better opportunity for the city. So the CDBG request is really no longer on the
That's
table. No longer on the table for us. The bond market is a much cleaner acquisition resource for us. And so it's our hope that once we achieve the final victory in court, and NFR has lost unanimously and summarily at every turn. At some point you would think if they really cared about this community, they would simply sit down and talk about how do we create value and how do we move on. But they'll do what they've always done. They'll do what they've done for 25 years. They'll try to torture the city to see whether or not we will bend our knee. And to be honest, if we do that, nothing's ever going to get done. They have a project that they claim they want to build there. It's not zoned for there, and they haven't made an application for a zoning change. They need a 135 megawatt power station. They haven't even entered into an agreement with the National Grid for its construction. All of these things are, again, the same smoke and mirrors that we've been hearing. We heard about the $100 million hotel and water park that was supposed to be built on the property that just a fence around it. We heard it with the luxury hotel and spa that was supposed to be built at the Turtle site. None of those things have ever happened.
Just to be clear, the land that you hope to acquire, you want something in it for a minute.
I'm going to tell you.
Now, you talk about 10th Street Park.
Right.
That's the area.
That's the area. Right now, as you look at it, if you were to stand in front of the social services building and look to your right, you see the social services building in your back, and look to your right, you see a fence out there. That was the 10th Street playground. It had a ballpark in there. And then it even extends farther down John B. Daly Boulevard. So it's a pretty big parcel. From John B. Daly Boulevard to 10th, and from Fall Street to the north boundary line of Nabisco, which is right around where the railroad tracks are.
The diagonal from social services.
Correct.
Okay, now, the biggest point is, we need all, people come here, they're here for a day or so, then they're dying, or they see the falls, they die. We need some year-round entertainment. Is that what you're pushing for?
Yeah, the goal, as I've said over and over again, I'm not suggesting that the conceptual project called Centennial Park is the answer. It's a piece of a puzzle. We're also trying to help developers get traction in the Rainbow Mall, for the Indoor Family Entertainment Center. If we can create indoor entertainment, there's 12 million people that live 90 minutes east and west of Niagara Falls. We have to get on the radar screen for them in the wintertime. Because 2 weeks before Thanksgiving every year, 1/3 to 1/2 of the 10,000 hospitality workers get laid off. On average, that's 4,000 people get laid off every year. And within that 4,000, Ron, 51% are women and 78% are people of color. So if we want to build community, if we want to build generational wealth, If we want to take people out of being tenants and put them into home ownership, we have to give them employment opportunities that are going to count. And seasonal work just isn't going to do it.
Okay, but now the other thing is, where do you hope to get the money from? That was the question.
For the construction? Construction of Centennial Park, I will tell you what was told to me by the Assembly and Senate leadership of the state.
That's a Morello.
Well, yeah, right, but the leadership is on the Democrat side, so we're talking about Tim Kennedy and Crystal Beach.
Tim Kennedy and Crystal, yeah.
Their message to me was simple. If you acquire, I'll never forget seeing her at the meeting when he said, if you acquire the land, don't worry about the money for the project. Now, I said to the lawyer who was with me at the time, I said, okay, I'm an attorney, and I think I understand the language. I said, but you have to explain to me what they mean by don't worry. He said to me, if the legislature greenlights a project, there are a number of areas where they can find the money for the project. So he took that to mean that if we acquire the land, it was kind of made clear to me, I can't appropriate money for your lemonade stand, Mayor, until you own the front lawn. So I have to own the land. And then I was told, don't worry about the funding for the project. If you think about it, $44 million was appropriated for a rink in Utica. A 9-figure check was sent to Hamburg to create a campus for Feed More New York. So if we can send that kind of money in other parts of the state, there really isn't any explanation for why they can't send money to the second most visited area in New York State, to a wonder of the world, to a place that is internationally known. It is what lights up Western New York, both figuratively and literally. So I'm going to hold my friends at the state level to their word.
Well, one of the things I know for sure is we're worldwide. I'm traveling all over this board. With some out west, Colorado. I went to California. Flies and seal burns up.
You'll like it. I love it.
Yeah. One of the things I do notice is that you're trying to bring everybody. Is that been quite a task?
Yeah, it has. I mean, look, for a long, long time, some of these entities and NFRs, all the time, they look to work in the division, in the chaos. If they can create the chaos, then they can have us all fighting with one another. We've done that even across the different levels of government. I can tell you that we have great cooperation on the law enforcement side, from the federal, the state, and the county law enforcement, working with our department for additional patrols, for additional assistance. Across the different layers of government, the county government, the school district, the water board, the housing authority. We have worked to try and make sure that we're all in the same 14.5 square miles. Why are we fighting? Why are we resisting cooperation? And so for our administration, it's been simple. How do we get everybody on the same page? And if a project that's proposed is opposed, my question is, okay, so what's the replacement for it? Just cutting out the legs of a project because it's not your idea, that's not going to move us forward. That's where we've been for decades. What we need to do is, have some humility, recognize that sometimes somebody comes up with a good idea, and let's run with it. I've said over and over again, we've talked about a couple of my ideas. If someone's got a better one, please bring it forward.
Bring it.
And we can pivot. I just haven't heard it.
Well, what they call blocking progress, we call that obstruction. If I'm not mistaken, that's called obstruction.
Yes, sir.
And we have a lot of obstructions here. We're trying to get things going. But what I'd like to ask you is, what do you see, we covered a couple already, as the 3 most challenging things with the city of Niagara Falls? I mean, you inherited the challenge. You had to find records and dig up stuff and everything else. So what are the 3 most pertinent challenges that you see facing the city of Niagara Falls?
Well, I think the three things that are most challenging, and we've already accomplished one, is to stabilize the finances. The second is to increase job opportunities, and the third is to bring that full-year development that will allow us to be a full-year destination. You know, that indoor development, indoor venues that will provide us with 12 months of entertainment.
One of the things that I thought about is when you said bond rating.
Yep.
Very good. You, if I'm not mistaken, do you have a $5 million surplus and they're able to lower some taxes or something?
Yeah, what happened?
Could you explain that?
Sure. What we were able to do, and we did it just coming out of COVID too, so what we were able to do is develop, when we close the books for 2023, we will end up with our third consecutive surplus budget. By policy, you're supposed to have at least 5% of your budget in reserves. We can finally say for the first time in quite some time, almost close, maybe a decade or more,
Yes.
we have that.
Yeah.
We're no longer a fiscally distressed city. All three bond rating agencies have upgraded our outlook. And what that's done is it's given us the ability to also say to homeowners, look, we're going to give you a tax break. And so people will see their taxes reduced a bit this year. Businesses, because of the two-tier tax system, we've also kept business taxes under the tax cap, although they'll see a slight tick up. And it's actually less than 1/2 the rate of inflation. So we've been able to, even if that increase in business, non-homestead property taxes increases, we've tried to keep a lid on it so that it isn't onerous.
What's so upsetting on that? That's a $5 million surplus.
Yeah.
That has to happen. That's phenomenal. And I'm glad that we could get some kind of relief. Lots of people, they're really happy about that has happened. Without bond rating, it's like good credit. If you want to lower interest, you can get credit.
You do. I mean, and that's how we approach it. It's kind of like how your household, my household, balance the checkbook, do better with your credit, increase your credit rating, and the people who are looking at you for investment will also be impressed by it. We've received a series of phone calls. Every time we receive an upgrade with our bond rating, I get developers calling and congratulating because they recognize it. They see that. So for us, the improvement of employment, we're going to graduate our second class. I think they're going to be cement masons. They'll graduate this year. We graduate this week. We graduated our first, the painters out of our vocational training center, which is over at 56th and Niagara Falls Boulevard, in conjunction with the Niagara County Building Trades. So it's providing trades training. It's seeing if we can get ourselves to be a full-time hospitality industry. And then working, obviously, with our new industrial park, which is going to be right across the street from the high school and about maybe, 20, 30 yards east. So it'll be across from where the old Walmart and Sam's were. The city owns 60 acres there. We've already got the first company in from Stony Creek. They make parts for wind turbines and for the aerospace industry. So you'll have, maybe several dozen light manufacturing jobs there.
You put some industry over there.
Light manufacturing over there.
Okay. That's good to hear, man, because people here need to work.
That's right.
They need to work. One of the things I want to ask you is now, what is your projected time when you think this thing with before I go there, let me ask you something else. I've noticed a lot of that buildings are slowly disappearing. What's going on with that? I've seen one of them to be across the street that need to go is gone. And there's several other places I see. What's your answer to that situation?
What we've done since we came is we pivoted with the use of our block grant money. We're using it obviously to improve roads, to take down dilapidated houses, and to do those things in block grant locations where we can maximize the funding we have by improving the outlook in those neighborhoods. So what we're doing is we're doubling down on our resources. Not only do we take resources from the general fund for some demolitions, but we also take our community development funds and roll that in as well so that we can do even more. We've paved 90 roads in 30 months. Because the first year and a half, almost 2 years,
90 fucking roads, but
COVID.
my fucking road was
So,
tore up for
probably-
You didn't have
Not
it. You
even
didn't
full
have
summer
it.
it was.
That COVID, man, you right. I mean, that's, you know how it says, you had about 2 years afterwards, right?
Yep. As soon as we walked in, we were there for 2 months, and things just started to shut down.
Well, that's amazing that you're getting things done. In the housing situation, a lot of houses, some of them, that were people, but some of them, really, a couple of them I know, said they just, I knew about the property, it was just not repairable.
Right.
It was not repairable.
Yeah, well, what we also appreciate too, sometimes residents will say, geez, I don't mean to bother you, but it's really not a bother. Sometimes it gives us an opportunity to get something on the radar screen. We're all human, even the people who work in our departments. And so we can't see everything all the time. And so if you see it and you tell us, it now gets on the radar screen. It may not get down 2 weeks after you talk about it, but it's there. We know it, and then as soon as we can schedule it, it'll get attended to.
Me and my friends were talking, one of the things we were happy about is notification. Explain that. I'm gonna have him put the chart up that you have on how to get notifications and how
Sure.
it works. Could you explain what you've done? Because that's the first time I've seen that. This is on the administration.
Look, during COVID, we were the first community in Western New York to use text alerts. And so we came upon the idea that we could send messages to residents quickly because everybody has a cell phone, right? Mostly everybody. And it doesn't even have to be a smartphone. If your phone receives text messages, you can get on the text alert system. So it allows us to tell you things about leaf pickup, road repair, snow removal, emergencies, school district things, social events that are happening. Anything at all that someone wants the city to help get out there into the residents' information, we put it out. And so it's been very successful. We'd love even more and more people to join in. I think it's the easiest and most efficient way for government to communicate with its residents.
I know that certain roads are home gone now because they're working. But I get my text alert.
That's right.
And I can see where I should go, where I should not go, and that's very helpful. And you also, I know you give us tips on what's going on with the city. And I think that's very important. You can't go to every organization, every house, but this text alert really, I think, is a great idea.
Yeah, our ability to communicate with residents, communication is always been an issue.
Yeah.
That's why we do things like this.
Yeah.
And so when we can communicate directly with residents, it's a win.
To keep people that come here for 2 or 3 days, that seems impossible. Because this is a worldwide destination. And once again, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you for my timekeeper. We got 1 more minute.
How do I download?
Let me say this. Thank you for showing up, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for letting us know what's going on. I hope to have you back some time. Soon I'm going to get some other politicians who are doing certain things on the assembly and other places that come and tell us.
search up YouTube tab.
We got an earful, and we now know what your goals are.
Anytime, I'm happy
Very
to come
lofty
back.
goals, and I believe you can do it.
I'm happy to come back.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, Dad.
Happy holidays, everyone.